Hello, welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading 1 Kings chapter 6. And it came to pass in the 480th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziph, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of the Lord. And the house which King Solomon built for the Lord, the length thereof was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 20 cubits, and the height thereof 30 cubits. And the porch before the temple of the house 20 cubits was the length thereof, according to the breadth of the house. And 10 cubits was the breadth thereof before the house. And for the house he made windows of narrow lights. And against the wall of the house he built chambers round about, against the walls of the house round about, both of the temple and of the oracle. And he made chambers round about. The nethermost chamber was 5 cubits broad, and the middle was 6 cubits broad, and the third was even 7 cubits broad. For without in the wall of the house he made narrowed rests round about, that the beams should not be fastened in the walls of the house. And the house, when it was in building, was built of stone made ready before it was brought thither, so that there was neither hammer, nor axe, nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was in the building. The door for the middle chamber was on the right side of the house, and they went up with winding stairs into the middle chamber, and out of the middle into the third. So he built the house and finished it, and covered the house with beams and boards of cedar. And then he built chambers against all the house, 5 cubits high, and they rested on the house with timber of cedar. And the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, concerning this house which thou art in building, if thou wilt walk in my statutes, and execute my judgments, and keep all my commandments to walk in them, then will I perform my word with thee, which I spake unto David thy father. And I will dwell among the children of Israel, and will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and finished it, and he built the walls of the house within with boards of cedar, both the floor of the house and the walls of the ceiling, and he covered them on the inside with wood, and covered the floor of the house with planks of fir. And he built 20 cubits on the sides of the house, both the floor and the walls with boards of cedar. He even built them for it within, even for the oracle, even for the most holy place. And the house, that is, the temple before it, was 40 cubits long. And the cedar of the house within was carved with knops and open flowers, all with cedar. There was no stone seen. And the oracle he prepared in the house within, to set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. And the oracle in the forepart was 20 cubits in length, and 20 cubits in breadth, and 20 cubits in the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold, and so covered the altar which was of cedar. So Solomon overlaid the house within with pure gold, and he made a partition by the chains of gold before the oracle, and he overlaid it with gold. And the whole house he overlaid with gold, until he had finished all the house. Also, the whole altar that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold, and within the oracle he made 2 cherubims of olive tree, each 10 cubits high, and 5 cubits was the one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other wing of the cherub. From the uttermost part of the one wing unto the uttermost part of the other were 10 cubits, and the other cherub was 10 cubits. Both the cherubims were of one measure and one size. The height of the one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was it of the other cherub. And he set the cherubims within the inner house, and they stretched forth the wings of the cherubims, so that the wing of the one touched the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall, and their wings touched one another in the midst of the house. And he overlaid the cherubims with gold. And he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers within and without. And the floors of the house he overlaid it with gold, within and without. And for the entering of the oracle, he made doors of olive tree. The lintel and side posts were a fifth part of the wall. The 2 doors also were of olive tree, and he carved upon them carvings of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubims and upon the palm trees. So also made he for the door of the temple posts of olive tree, a fourth part of the wall, and the 2 doors were of fir tree. The 2 leaves of the one door were folding, and the 2 leaves of the other door were folding. And he carved thereon cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and covered them with gold fitted upon the carved work. And he built the inner court with 3 rows of hewed stone, and a row of cedar beams. In the 4th year was the foundation of the house of the Lord laid, in the month Ziph. And in the 11th year, in the month Bul, which is the 8th month, was the house finished throughout all the parts thereof, and according to all the fashion of it. So he was 7 years in building it. In 1 Kings 5, this chapter documents Solomon's agreement with King Hiram to have a temple built to honor the God of Israel. In our current chapter, 1 Kings 6, we are given specific details about the construction of Israel's first temple. Summarizing 1 Kings chapter 6, let's review 1 through 5. In 1 Kings chapter 1, David is dying. His son Adonijah just declares he's going to be king of Israel. So David has to work with Bathsheba and who is his wife, and he also has to work with Nathan, who is his prophet, to quickly appoint Solomon. This is the second time one of his sons have tried to take over his kingdom, and it's just really egregious this time because David is on his deathbed, dying, and his son is thinking about, well, now it's going to be my turn. So after Solomon is appointed king in 1 Kings chapter 1, we get to chapter 2, where David is giving his final instructions to Solomon how he wants things carried out in his kingdom after he's gone. We get to chapter 3. God appears to Solomon in a dream, asking him, what can he give Solomon? And Solomon says he wants an understanding heart and discernment. And so this is the story also, or the chapter, where there's two women that have the incident where they're both saying they're the mother of a child, and Solomon orders that the child be cut in half. Chapter 4. This is the chapter listing Solomon's kingdom staff and their duties. Chapter 5. The king of Tyre. Him and Solomon organize a plan to build Israel's first official temple. So now we get here to 1 Kings 6. And just quickly, the importance of this temple is that Israel is a fairly new group of people. We do learn here in verse 1 that right now, where we're at in the Bible, is 480 years after Israel left Egypt under Moses' leadership. So, what we have to remember, Leviticus 18 and 19, the people that have been living on this land have made the land sick with their behaviors. So sick that in Leviticus 19, they're unable to even eat the crops for 5 years. Give the land a chance to heal. So, we have to keep in mind this is a new group of people. They did not even have an identity as an Israelite until they were enslaved in Egypt. When we read the book of Genesis, we're reading about individual characters. They don't become a group of people until, Jacob and his 12 sons move to Egypt to avoid famine. And once their generation dies off and that generation of Egyptians die off, the new Egyptians that come into power sees the descendants of Jacob as a threat. And we have to remember Jacob has the name Israel. He's being called Jacob and Israel in the Bible until he dies. And then his descendants are called Israelites. It's to help distinguish them from the Egyptians. Also, I'm not quite sure why they don't use the word Hebrew to describe themselves because they were Hebrews, but maybe this is because they just connect themselves to their closest ancestor and you know their ancestor that moved to Egypt. That was probably pretty significant for that group of people. So however it came about, they're calling themselves Israelites now, but you have to remember their only connection to the earth is through slaves once they become this group of people. So yes, they were able to go into the wilderness, develop self-reliance, develop the ability to follow a leader while having the free will, because it's different having free will to obey and obeying because you don't have a choice. And so God gives them all these customs and laws. This is supposed to serve as a foundation for when they get into the land. But of course, we know they don't keep that up for several reasons. Um, First of all, maybe the influence around them is very severe. You have to think these are people with their own style, their own culture, their own buildings and structures. And you have this brand new group of people who are having to build while looking around at these people who already have things built up. So we also, Moses miscommunicates information in the book of Deuteronomy before he dies. So just putting all that together, this group of people are so new in the territory that other people have their own cultures and their own buildings. So this is huge for them to have an official building for God that is going to be elaborate. Okay? The only thing about this is number 1, the writing style of the Book of Kings made me question like who wrote the book. And as you can see, it says that it's not known, but there's just these suggestions and traditions. But we don't know who wrote First Kings. So that's number 1. Number 2, this chapter is going to be just so specific about details. And there's just no way to make sure this is the correct measurements, this is the correct construction. I personally don't believe that we can read this and replicate exactly what Solomon built. On top of that, I did a little bit more research because I've read up until the 15th chapter. Um, and Solomon's temple gets destroyed. But for now, we're here. Um, there is no action in this chapter either. This is just really specific measurements. So I am going to go through it a little bit quickly for that reason. You know, for that reason. Okay. So a cubit is assumed to be 18 inches, and three score, the word three score, is assumed to be the number 60. The reason why I say assumed is because even the words that we use, the definitions of that changed over time. Like we're going to get to the term oracle. Oracle now refers to a person most of the time, or a word for some, a message from someone who is esteemed as an oracle. But in this passage, an oracle is a place. So even that changed. So just putting so much effort into these measurements, and I personally just I don't want to do that but so much, okay? So, 480 years after they left slavery, after leaving Egypt, this is the 4th year into Solomon's reign. Solomon begins building. And I just want to point out one other thing. You see how it says in the New Living Translation it was in mid-spring? When we look at these other translations, it doesn't tell us if it's mid-spring or not. Now it does say in the month of Ziv, or the second month, but adding it was mid-spring. So, verse 2, we learn about the temple, 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, 45 feet high. Verse 3, the porch, the vestibule, the lobby, waiting area, okay, 30 feet wide, projecting 15 feet. And then it says in verse 4, there were narrow, recessed windows. So, what that sounds like to me when I clicked on it and it says artistic frames, beveled frames, this reminds me of those stained glass windows in church. Sounds like this was maybe a predecessor or the first type of that. Okay, so verses 5 and 6, I don't completely understand. And again, I just I just don't understand this. I don't see this as being extremely important anyway. But there are rooms built around the walls. Uh, but this is the first time in the King James Version that we see the word oracle. So this is a place. But see how when you type in oracle, a bit of a delay. Okay. A person, an answer, an authoritative person. So we have here a shrine, which Shrine shrine is a word like ritual where it has a secular origin, but if you really think about it, it can mean something else. A place, a niche containing a religious image, a place which devotion is paid to, a sanctuary, but just the word oracle and the way that it's changed right here is referring to a place, but we see these other translations say sanctuary. All right. So we get verse 6, more details about the rooms. Verse 7 is more information. What this is saying is the stones that were used were finished at a quarry, and a quarry is like a threshing floor. It's a place where stones are processed to be used in construction. So, what this is saying is the stones used were uh, m- manipulated or however they have to do to get it ready for use. It was done away from the temple so that there was no noise made there. Then we have verses 8 through 10, which again, more details. A ceiling is made of cedar. There's stairs, and there's 3 floors of this temple. Then we got 11 to 13, where God speaks directly, and he tells Solomon, if you keep my commands, I will keep my promise to you, just like I did David, and I'll live among the Israelites. We get from 14 to 16. Solomon finished building the temple. Okay, period. But then we have these additional details. So that's one reason why I was sort of criticizing the writing style, because why did you tell us it's finished and then tell us more details? Okay, but the entire inside was paneled with wood. And then the inner sanctuary, or again, that oracle word comes up in the King James. Gives us more dimensions and saying that everything was covered with cedar. Then it says in verse 19 to 22, the oracle was 30 feet long. Oracle is what's used in the King James. Okay. So the inner sanctuary, the shrine, the special place, this is where the Ark of the Covenant would be placed. So 30 feet long, 30 feet wide, 30 feet high. The inside was covered with solid gold. He overlaid the altar with gold. We get verses 23 through 28. Solomon built a pair of angels from olive trees to decorate the inside of the oracle, and they were also covered with gold. Verses 29 through 36 are more details about the wall decor, carvings of angels and trees, a gold floor. Oracle doors are made of olive trees covered with gold. And then 33 through 36 are just even more explicit details. We get to verse 37, and we say that the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid in the second month, 4th year of Solomon's reign. Or it says in the month of Ziv. So the entire building was finished by the 11th year of his reign. It took him 7 years to build the temple. So the foundation was laid in the 4th year, completed by the 11th year. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I know it takes a little mental energy to get through some of that, but it is well worth it to say that you know that you know that you know. The confidence that comes with knowing is unmatched. No one can even make you doubt your relationship when you know what you know. Thank you for clicking on the video. I love you. God bless you. Have a wonderful day at whatever you're doing.